Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode number 70. You might have noticed my Botox has finally kicked in. I don't know if fully, but Kelsey can tell me is my forehead moving? Yeah, see? Yeah, I'm frozen up. The Botox has kicked in. I was in a weird in-between phase where it had run out, but it was still getting close to the wedding, and I wanted to make sure it was like fully juiced up for the wedding. So I had a couple of months there, I feel like, where I did not have Botox in my face, which is not good for anyone. So I'm frozen again. I'm feeling youthful and free. And a reminder to everyone, whatever the hell you want to do to your face and your body, it's up to you. Have fun with it. Who the hell cares? It's all gonna rot away. Speaking of youthful skin, it's a weird intro to talk about child labor laws. Illinois has just introduced a new law that is going to protect kids that are in their parents' videos on TikTok, Instagram, etc. The law will go into effect here next year, and the rule is that if a kid's under 16, they need to be compensated if during a 30-day period they're in at least 30% of the video or online content for which the adult, whether a parent or caregiver, is being paid. So if 30% of your content has a kid in it, that kid needs to be compensated. You need to set up a trust and take I assume, percentage of the revenues that you're making and give them to the kid. I love this, honestly. It is natural for parents to put their children into social. I know it's a big decision for a lot of influencers, whether they put their kid in or don't put their kid in. I'm not going to wade into that decision. I don't have children, so I don't know what all of the factors that kind of go into making that decision. Does the kid have the kind of agency to say whether they want to do that or not? Certainly, for the first part of their life, they don't really have a choice. But I love that there are laws protecting them. This is actually something that a friend of Fohr, someone who's been in a lot of the work that we've done, Saida Silva, who's now on the new New York Housewives cast. She talked about this all the time. She had set up trusts for her kids when she does sponsored content that involves the children, because often the sponsored content with kids will do better than sponsored content just with the parent. And so the brand might request that the child be included in the post. When that was the case with Sai, she would charge more. She would take the corresponding increase in pay for that post and put it into a bank account for her kids that's in a trust that they can access once they're 18. I think this is like a great way to handle that. I think that's the fair thing to do. I think that if your kids are going to be a big part of your content, they should absolutely be compensated. And I like that they're codifying this into law. I'm sure people feel a certain way about it. If you disagree, if you think this is not a step in the right direction, let me know. We can keep talking about it. But I do think if your kids are in your content and you're making money off of them, some of that money should be set aside for them to access, since they are contributing to your ability to make money. And we all know a lot of child actors have been exploited. It is difficult when a kid is bringing in a lot of money and the parents are spending it or feel like in some way they have control, or they should be given access to it. We're gonna move on to some questions here. Question number 1. Someone says, can you walk through pricing for TikTok? In an earlier episode, you mentioned TikTok pricing formula is more complicated and takes into account more than just the amount of followers. I have about 17,000 followers on TikTok. I'm wondering what specific factors formula would be best to price myself out for the platform. So I love this question. I think obviously how to price yourself out, how to understand pricing and be fair and be compensated fairly is such a big part of understanding how to run your business as an influencer. I'm not going to say who asked this because I don't want to give any specifics away, but I went through this account and I looked at the last 20 posts that they'd created. Now, 17,000 followers on TikTok. I went through the last 20 posts, wrote down the views for each of those 20 posts. So over the last 20 posts, this user has driven 55,945 views on TikTok, which is great. That is an average of 2,797 views per post, or a 16% average viewership. One, it's good to know that number for yourself. It's on Fohr, but you can also just do the calculation yourself. Look at the last 20 or 30 posts, add them all up, divide it by 30. When I say that the equation is more complicated, at Fohr here, we're looking at, are those views being driven by a couple of high performers, posts that overperformed wildly, or do you get consistent performance, right? So there are some accounts that might have 16% average viewership. Most content they create gets 5% viewership, and then every 10th post they get 200% viewership, right? So that pulls the average up. This case, this account is pretty consistent. They're pretty consistently getting between 1 and 3,000 views on each video, which is great. They've got an audience that's kind of locked in. There's a couple that performed higher. There were some in the past that did millions, but generally it's pretty consistent. As you think about pricing yourself, there are market factors and then there's like personal considerations, right? If you're trying to understand the market and what other people are charging, it's helpful to first know what would it cost a brand to purchase those views without you. 3,000 views, let's say, so the math is easier, is going to cost about $30. Okay, so very cheap. There is, of course, the factor of like them having to create the content, right? Like they have to have some piece of content that they want to put that paid behind. As you consider what you are pricing yourself, it's good to know what could they buy this for without me? And then how valuable do I think my kind of audience is, my connection with that audience, my point of view, and then how do I need to be compensated for my time for just creating this content? When you are in that 5 to 50,000 followers range, the CPM calculations like the one we just did don't make a huge amount of sense, because even for us, if on average we're giving influencers, $20 or $30 CPM, right? Even that with 2,700 views, you're talking about $50 to $80 for a post. It's just like doesn't make a huge amount of sense. When you are in that sub 100K following range, especially on TikTok, the focus should be creating more content that does really well, reaching new audiences, growing that following. I don't want, creators who are more up and coming, who are kind of trying to establish themselves. I don't want you focused too much on how do I make money off this 17,000 followers that I have on TikTok. The focus should be like, how can I turn 17,000 followers into 100,000 followers? And then we can really think about money. Of course, that's a privilege and a luxury to be able to do that. Maybe you need to make money on this in the short term, that's totally understandable. And if brands are reaching out asking to pay you, then you should come up with a price. I'm just saying what the focus should be, what you should be waking up, maniacally focused on every day, if this is what you want your career to be, is creating better and better content, trying to reach more people and growing that following, not figuring out how to leverage it into paid opportunities with brands yet. Okay, a couple quick questions. If you boost Reels on your Instagram account, how does it affect the algorithm? That's a great question. There are, to my knowledge, no official answers on that. Lots of speculation. I've seen people say, oh, I started boosting, my organic reach, then fell through the floor. That seems unlikely to me, that Instagram would deprioritize your organic reach after you just gave them money. They obviously don't tell us exactly how the algorithm works. These algorithms are also living, kind of breathing things that kind of change and morph on their own as user behavior changes. Often there is a desire to kind of link two seemingly related things together when in fact they may be unrelated. So I boosted some Reels and then the posts that I did after did not perform well. Ergo, the posting must have affected the algorithm and hurt my organic reach, when in fact, maybe it's just that content that you published for the 3 Reels after the boosted wasn't as good, didn't connect as much with the audience, any number of factors. So I would say no official word. My guess would be unlikely that it has an impact. Last question is, how often do you find brands are thinking of podcast sponsorship for their marketing mix? Good question. Important to note, I believe that the inside of a company, especially a larger organization, let's say a company doing over $100 million a year in sales. That's, the majority of who's spending in this space are bigger companies. The people that buy podcast advertising and the people that work with influencers are probably very different teams. I don't know that we have much overlap across the hundreds of clients that we work with. I don't think the people who are purchasing podcast ads are also in charge of influencer. We looked into it a while back, I think, because a lot of influencers were starting podcasts, and I think a lot of the way the advertising works is actually pretty similar to influencer marketing. Podcasts get lumped into, I think, more traditional media, and honestly, don't get nearly as much money as influencers. It's not a great business model if you can't get an enormous amount of reach. And yeah, unfortunately at this time, the people buying sponsored posts on TikTok, Instagram, etc., are not the people who are deciding to spend on podcasts or not. Now, the CMO, the marketing director, ultimately, they might say, okay, I want to spend $50K on podcast ads and $200K on influencer posts. So there is somebody, in that organization that is making that decision. It's just who's executing it is different. And so I'm sure a lot of the brands that we work with are doing both. But again, that it is not the same people doing both. So hard to find crossover there. As always, thank you for your questions. Like and subscribe. Let us know what you want to see more of, see less of. And we'll see you next week. Cheers. Best Caesar salad. Wow. Well, I hate salads. I hate salads. I eat them almost every day out of spite and necessity, I believe. But I hate salads. I can't say I've ever really truly enjoyed eating a salad. I hate salads. It's just something that I put up with as a part of adulthood. I would much prefer to eat peanut butter and jelly or cheeseburgers every afternoon. But yeah, mashed potatoes would be great, but I hate salads. The suits keep me away from that, and I have to be good. So I hate salads.